Tonight, the ground of American law has shifted beneath our feet, as history is written in real time before our eyes. From the Supreme Court steps, a decision on gun rights echoes across all 50 states, reshaping a debate as old as the nation itself, and sending ripples through every community, large and small. This is more than law or politics. It's about who we are, the values we hold dear, and the country we want to be for future generations. The ruling, delivered today, will be debated and felt for generations to come, forcing every American to confront the meaning of freedom and safety, and to ask difficult questions about our rights and responsibilities. The world watches as America grapples with its foundational principles. Our relationship with firearms, a unique aspect of our national character, and a subject of fascination and concern abroad. In Washington, D.C., the air is thick with tension, celebration on one side, fear and frustration on the other as emotions run high and voices rise in passionate debate. These two Americas, standing just feet apart, reveal the deep divisions this issue carves through our society, highlighting the challenges we face in finding common ground. For millions, the news is deeply personal, relief for some, anxiety for others, as families and friends discuss what this moment means for their lives and their futures. Tonight, we begin to understand not just what the court decided, but what it means for every person in this divided nation, and how it will shape the conversations and choices of tomorrow. To truly grasp today's decision, we must journey back through the long, complex, and often contentious history of the Second Amendment, a history that continues to shape American society and law. Ratified in 1791, its 27 words have ignited centuries of debate. Is the right to bear arms an individual liberty, or is it fundamentally tied to the existence of well-regulated militias? This question has divided scholars, lawmakers, and citizens alike, fueling passionate arguments on both sides. For much of American history, the Supreme Court remained largely silent on the issue, effectively leaving gun regulation and interpretation of the Second Amendment to the states and local governments. Landmark federal laws, like the National Firearms Act of 1934 and the Gun Control Act of 1968, established important standards for gun ownership and sales, but they never fully resolved the deeper constitutional question at the heart of the debate. Everything changed in 2008 with the Supreme Court's decision in District of Columbia versus Heller. For the first time, the court explicitly affirmed that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to possess firearms for self-defense, especially within the home. Just 2 years later, McDonald versus City of Chicago extended that right to all states, ensuring that the Second Amendment applied nationwide and opening the door to a wave of new legal challenges and interpretations. Yet, even in Heller, the court made clear that the right to bear arms is not unlimited. Restrictions on gun ownership for felons, the mentally ill, and bans on dangerous and unusual weapons remain constitutional, leaving room for regulation. Since then, courts across the country have struggled to define exactly which regulations are permissible, resulting in a confusing patchwork of laws and ongoing legal uncertainty from state to state. Today's ruling is the latest, and perhaps the most sweeping chapter in this ongoing legal and cultural battle, a struggle that continues to shape the nation's identity and future. At the heart of today's ruling is United States versus Patterson, a challenge to a 2023 federal law regulating ghost guns, unserialized, privately made firearms. The law required licenses and registration for home-built guns, aiming to close a loophole exploited by criminals. Mark Patterson, a Texas engineer, led the challenge, arguing the government had no authority to restrict private gunsmithing, a tradition older than the nation itself. After conflicting lower court rulings, the Supreme Court took up the case. In a 6-3 decision, the court struck down the law, declaring the right to keep and bear arms includes the right to make firearms for personal use, subject only to historical restrictions. Justice Thomas wrote, "The right to self-defense is paramount, and it includes the right to acquire the tools necessary for that defense." This decision ties Second Amendment protections directly to historical practices, casting doubt on modern gun regulations. The Supreme Court's decision in Patterson relied heavily on what's known as the text, history, and tradition test, a standard that was firmly established in the 2022 Bruin case. This approach has now become central to how the court evaluates Second Amendment challenges. Under this test, any gun regulation must be consistent with the historical traditions of firearm regulation that existed in the 18th or 19th centuries, when the Second Amendment was adopted and interpreted by early Americans. The majority of justices meticulously examined colonial laws, legal writings, and early American practices searching for evidence of a tradition of regulating home-built firearms. They found no such tradition in the historical record. As a result, the court concluded that licensing and registration requirements for personal gun-making are modern inventions, unsupported by the nation's legal history or founding-era practices. The dissenting justices strongly disagreed, arguing that this historical approach ignores the realities of today, such as the ease with which individuals can now assemble untraceable, high-powered weapons at home, and severely limits lawmakers' ability to address contemporary threats. They warned that the ruling could undermine public safety, making it harder for legislators to respond to new and evolving dangers posed by modern firearms and technology. With this decision, the court has cemented the text, history, and tradition test as the controlling standard for all future Second Amendment cases, replacing previous methods that weighed public interest or safety. Arguments based on public safety concerns or gun violence statistics are now largely irrelevant in courtrooms, as judges are instructed to focus almost exclusively on historical precedent. The only question that matters is whether a similar regulation existed in the past, during the founding era, or shortly thereafter. This history-focused test puts many existing and future gun control measures at risk, raising uncertainty about how courts will treat modern regulations that lack direct historical analogs. The political fallout from Patterson was immediate and fierce. For conservatives, it's a crowning achievement, proof of a decades-long strategy to expand gun rights. Republicans vow to use this momentum to challenge more gun laws, while Democrats call the ruling judicial activism that ignores public will. With federal action unlikely to survive court challenges, the fight shifts to state elections, judicial appointments, and creative public safety strategies. The stakes for the 2028 election and every judicial confirmation have never been higher. Grassroots movements on both sides are mobilizing, gun rights groups celebrating, gun safety advocates organizing protests and voter drives. The debate is far from settled. It's simply moved to new battlegrounds: state houses, courtrooms, and the ballot box. The fight over guns in America is entering a new, more intense phase. The Supreme Court's decision will reshape the multi-billion-dollar firearm industry. While gun stocks saw mixed reactions, the long-term outlook is strong, especially for companies selling parts and build kits for home assembly. The ruling legitimizes this sector, spurring investment and innovation as new businesses emerge to meet demand. States with strict gun laws may lose tax revenue as commerce shifts online and across borders, while permissive states could see an influx of gun-related businesses. Some communities may face economic downsides. Tourism and business investment could suffer if public safety concerns grow. The healthcare system will continue to bear the costs of firearm injuries, a burden often passed to the public. The Patterson decision doesn't just interpret the law, it changes economic incentives and business decisions nationwide. The industry, and the states that host it, are entering a new era of competition and adaptation. The social fabric of America is being reshaped by this ruling. It is now constitutionally protected to build a firearm at home. No background check, no serial number, no government record. For some, this is the ultimate expression of self-reliance and liberty. For others, it's a source of deep unease. Law enforcement warns that untraceable guns make solving crimes harder and communities less safe. In neighborhoods already impacted by gun violence, fears of increased danger are real. The ruling will intensify debates over where guns are allowed, leading to more legal challenges and a more visible presence of firearms in public life. The question of whether more guns mean more safety or more danger will become a daily reality, not just a debate. For some, it's empowerment. For others, disenfranchisement. This ruling redefines the social contract, forcing Americans to renegotiate the balance between individual rights and the collective good. Legal experts agree. Patterson is just the beginning. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a constitutional scholar, predicts a flood of lawsuits challenging everything from assault weapon bans to red flag laws. The central question: can the government find a similar regulation from the 18th century? That's a high bar. Former police chief David Chen warns the proliferation of untraceable guns will make policing and solving violent crimes much harder. State lawmakers in places like California and New York face tough choices: draft new laws that fit the court's historical test, or shift focus to violence prevention and mental health. The next decade will be defined by legal battles, fought by lawyers and historians, not just politicians. The Supreme Court has drawn a clear line, but the full impact will only emerge as existing laws are tested. The America of 2035 will look different because of today's decision. The question is, in what ways? That answer is still unwritten. Tonight we stand at a crossroads, a decision that will echo for a generation. The Supreme Court has redrawn the boundaries of our laws, but it hasn't ended the conversation. The future of gun rights and public safety will be decided in the public square, in legislatures, and at the ballot box. Engagement, not apathy, is essential. Be informed, read beyond headlines, listen to voices you disagree with. Democracy depends on citizens willing to grapple with complex, divisive issues. The courts have set a new legal framework, but our elected representatives must now work within it. Your voice matters. Contact your lawmakers, support organizations that reflect your values, and participate in shaping your community. The story of America is one of argument and striving for a more perfect union. Today's decision is not the final word, but the start of a new chapter. What kind of nation do we want to be? That answer is now up to all of us.